Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to the Alaska Grown Facebook Live event. We have a special event for you today. I'm Dan Sadler with the Alaska Department of Natural Resources, and we're here at the McKinley Meat and Sausage plant on Inner Springer Loop in Palmer with an important announcement about the future of this fine facility. I'm going to introduce a few people and let them say a few words, and then we're going to have some good announcement of news for you. Right now, I'll introduce Commissioner Corey Feige, Department of Natural Resources, Todd Ellsbury and his wife Sherry, and we'll know about them later, Rob Carter with the Division of Agriculture, and Bill Borden with High Caliber Realty. I'm going to introduce Commissioner Feige, who's got a few words to say, and we'll enjoy our event here today. Thank you.
All right, thanks Dan, and thank you everybody for being here with us today. As Dan mentioned, we've got some very exciting news about the facility, and I think that what you'll learn here today is very germane to the discussion of food security in Alaska. And if we learned nothing else during the pandemic, it was that Alaska is at the far bitter end of the supply chain. And as we're seeing supply chain disruptions, the governor heard in the early days of the pandemic that the port at Seattle could potentially shut down, which would directly impact goods and food coming into Alaska. And Alaskans need to do something about not being able to fall victim to those kinds of disruptions in the supply chain. So I'm really excited about the news about this facility and some new ownership and some new people stepping up to really help us drive home food security in Alaska. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bill Borden to tell you about the deal.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. So well, we're standing in a hole here, Dan.
Yeah, it is.
I've got some notes here, but I really wanted to tell you how this deal came together and how the private sector and the state worked together to make it all happen. Most of this information is available on the press releases, so you can see that. But, you know, we often talk about Alaska food sustainability, and it gets overshadowed by the 630-pound cabbages and the 65-pound cantaloupes, and we forget about how we need to feed Alaska. In the past, the red meat sustainability in Alaska has had its difficulty. It's in the past, not with the current administration, in the past it's been propped up with some state money. It's had small, too much short-lived competition. So this is really what I feel like is a permanent solution with everybody's help. How the deal actually come together. A few months ago, Greg of Mike's Quality Meats, the former owner of now McKinley Meats, actually reached out to High Caliber Realty. We're an 82-year-old company. We've been in Alaska for, 2-3 decades now. When he reached out, he said he had a piece of property and a processing plant he wanted to sell. Well, of course, I was raised on a farm as well, so I found this very, very intriguing. And then myself and Kim Peltier, our manager here in Alaska, we thought about trying to find a buyer for the property, not so much for the meat processing. But then David reached out to me, the director of the Division of Agriculture, and he expressed his concern about wanting to keep it a meat processing plant, that Alaska needed that. And then Greg also said, we need to keep this a meat processing plant. So David and I had breakfast. There was another gentleman invited, but he didn't show up. And we got to thinking, how are we going to do this? Because what we needed were heads of cattle and heads of swine. We needed product to kill. And we needed to make sure there was going to be a supply for anybody that purchased this plant. So actually the first thing that we did was reach out to the farmers and say, really all I wanted was a non-committal letter of intent saying, these are how many heads you're going to be able to kill today, or this year, or this is how many I'm going to deliver to the plant. The one farmer that called me back was Todd Ellsbury. And Todd filled out his document, and Todd and I got to thinking, and we got to working, and during this time, we actually got a higher offer, and Greg turned it down because he wanted to make sure this stayed a USDA plant. Todd and I worked through it. Todd, you know, he tries to be humble, but he's a very smart businessman, did the math, realized he could support the plant with his operation, started gearing up. One thing led to another, and Todd and Sherry Ellsbury formed Alaska Meat Packers Incorporated and took over the plant officially on the 10th to open up, so that one Alaska family, they're putting their faith in the rest of the farmers in Alaska. They're putting their money with actually no state money, no federal grants, all private money, their money that they're putting into this plant. It's just them, and they're depending on the rest of the farmers in the state of Alaska to help secure the future of the red meat industry in Alaska by gearing up all of their stock, get their operations geared up so that they can help support the plant. AlaskaMeatPackers.com's got all the contact information. If you're viewing this video after the fact, it's going to be on Alaska Grown Live for several months, I'm sure, thanks to David. And get with them, let them know what your predictions are so they can make sure they've got a fully operational USDA commercial plant in Alaska to secure Alaska's needs. And now I think I'm supposed to turn it over to Rob.
I get to keep your iPad?
You can.
Thanks, sir. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Rob Carter, and I work for the Division of Ag. I'm actually standing in for our director, Dave Shady. He's out of town on some other business today. So it's a privilege to be here with everybody that had and worked on this project so hard, and to see all the folks from representatives and governor's office staff all tucked in here in the back, and other produce and meat producers here from the state of Alaska. From the division's perspective, I would say, and my perspective of working with agricultural producers across the state, a consistent outlet for Alaska meat producers is really the cornerstone to growing our industry. It's really the ability for those people that raise animals to increase their heads and their herd sizes solely relies on having a facility like this. And so we can fulfill that market, so we can get more meat on the shelves of our local grocers and into the hands of local people around the state to help increase our food security. This is the cornerstone of that. I think that there's nothing but future here, along with other meat plants that are around the state. And if this industry supports this, they grow their herds, as Todd and his family work hard to run this operation and grow theirs, you'll start to see red meat available, Alaska-grown red meat available in all of your local retailers and available through farmers markets and at local restaurants. That in itself is the true definition of sustainability, because that's where a farm and a bunch of farmers can generate revenue to do this again next year. So from the Division Ag standpoint, we are excited to have these guys come in and take over ownership this and keep it operational for everyone, for themselves, and just the next big stepping block to grow Alaska's agriculture. So we greatly appreciate the opportunity from the Division Ag standpoint, and future involvement to help and support you guys as you develop, as well as those that are growing feed for our animals around the state and everyone else. So again, from the Division Ag, we thank you very much. And I get the privilege to pass this off to the new owner.
I'd give you the privilege to tell me what to say. I want to thank everybody for coming. We are excited about what this means for Alaska food security, to get products out there. The markets, in my opinion, are virtually wide open. We always have our little hurdles here in Alaska agriculture. I'm hoping this will smooth out the way on some of that. I'm hoping more producers can jump in and know that there's going to be a facility that can take their animals. I'm excited times, and we'll see what the future brings. We're hoping to maybe get open this next week. A lot of things still pending on that, but we definitely want to get opened up and get our feet on the ground. So, thank you.
I just want to invite up to the podium for a second to introduce Representative Delana Johnson, who's a big supporter of agriculture. We're in her district now, so I want to make sure that she has a chance to say a few words. Delana?
Thank you, Dan. Well, you're in my district, and thankfully you get to stay in my district after all, everything. So from 2010 2016, I was mayor of Palmer, and this was a struggle. Mount McKinley Meats, it was always like, what are we going to do? Are we going to lose it? It was incredibly important to the city of Palmer, as well as to all the farmers around here that are depending on having somewhere to be able to take their meat that they work hard to make sure that it's well done, and they need to have a place to take care of that at. And so I think this is just a standout day for this facility being in private hands. I think, I just remember so many discussions on how this is going to work and what's going to happen and so on. And so I just want to say thank you for taking it's a big step, and the risk and all those things you have to do to be an entrepreneur, very much appreciated, incredibly important to our farmers in this area. I mean, I can't even overstate that. There's no way to say how important that is. And and it's incredibly, we kind of got slapped upside the head by the coronavirus, showing us what food security really means to the state of Alaska and how tremendously important it is. And this is a big piece of that, keeping that going. So thank you to everyone, and I sure appreciate this and being here. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Well, great. Thank you for everyone's comments and perspectives. I'm going to invite the new owners of Alaska Meat and his wife to take up the scissors and go behind the, and everyone gather around behind there, if you would, please. I think Todd and Sherry are going to have to, we're here on the cutting floor, and they're about to make one of the most significant and first cuts on the new property. So everyone scooch in behind there, and this will be no blood. So, hey. Well, thank you everyone for being here. We're going to hang out, and if anyone has any questions of the new owners or commissioners or any of our VIPs here, you're welcome to hang out and have a discussion. Congratulations to the Ellsbury. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to the Governor's Office for making the development team available here. And we look forward to great things. Thank you very much, and have a good Friday. Bye-bye.